In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. Now, you would think that having Easter fall on April Fool's Day, that the sermon would just write itself. But that is not necessarily the case. And personally, in my experience in this parish, though I love everyone here, I am very glad that we don't take much stock in celebrating April Fool's Day. Because I can just imagine some of the pranks that might occur here, and I'm not looking at anybody in particular here. Things like putting some fake spiders in the sacristy for the altar guild. That'd be mean. Changing the organist's sheet music to the theme from It's a Small World. And I'm sure that nobody has ever thought of putting an air horn underneath Father Alex's chair. You see, on April Fool's Day, the thing that we celebrate is putting one over on somebody, making them look like a fool. And as Christians, we're incredibly familiar with that in a unique way. Because on Good Friday, which we celebrated just a couple of days ago, while we were celebrating the death and sacrifice of Jesus Christ and what it means for us, we also remember that there were entire crowds of people right there at the cross who were mocking Jesus and calling him a fool. They called Jesus a fool because of who he loved, because of who he chose to serve. And most of all, they called him a fool because he dared to say that he was the Son of God. And so they dressed him in a purple cloak, they put a crown of thorns on his head, and they mocked him. And even while he was on the cross, they mocked him more and said, "If you come down now, we'll believe. If God really loves you, then he will save you." And once he was dead and they saw that he was being laid in his tomb, they thought to themselves, just a fool. But something really interesting happened to that fool. His heart began to beat again. His lungs began to draw breath. He began to shed his burial shroud, and the stone was rolled away. He was risen. He was alive. But not like you and I. He was alive in a glorified way, in a resurrected way. And now, all those who had seen the foolish promises that he had made about strike down this body and I will raise it in 3 days, now they were the ones who looked like fools. That's the message for today. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be intricate. The message on Easter morning is pretty short, sweet, and to the point. Christ is risen. Christ is risen. And that should give us pause. That statement should cause us a little bit of hesitation. It should make us think, because if that statement is true, and each one of us should go and research it and learn about it and pray about it to understand it. But if that statement is true, then it changes everything. It changes everything that we understand about God. It changes everything we understand about sin and death and life. It changes everything that we know even about ourselves. But there's more than that. When Jesus Christ was coming out of the tomb, he came out with nothing. He left his suffering, his death, fear, doubt, all of it. There wasn't any room on him to walk out with it. The only thing he was able to do was to embrace this new and resurrected life. And that is the question that he is personally asking to each one of us today. Will we accept this resurrected life? Last night at the Easter Vigil, we celebrated in the darkness the tomb. And then when Easter finally came and we proclaimed that the Lord is risen indeed, we realized that we were coming out of the tomb as well. And we have to leave everything in that tomb also. And so Jesus Christ invites us in living this resurrected life to leave our fear and our hesitation, our anger, our resentment, everything that's holding us back from a relationship with God. Just leave it there. Now, the world is still going to think we're a little foolish. Sometimes for our faith, we may even be mocked and laughed at. But the only fool is the one who meets the risen Lord, who believes, who sees Him, who tries to understand and build a relationship with God, and stays in the tomb. Christ Himself has called us by name to come out. And today, each of us is asked, will I rise up and go? Amen.